Hello, welcome to the fourth video of the community analysis trainings. This one will tell you a little bit more about doing a focus group and how you can use a focus group to learn more about the needs of the community. As we have seen before, you have basically the community analysis that is two big blocks. First, you have to find a problem and then you have to find a solution. Doing the community analysis and mapping the needs of the community is part of the first block, so finding the problem, and one of the methods you can use to find the problem and to analyze the needs of the community is doing a focus group with people from the community. So first of all, what is a focus group? Well, a focus group is basically a group conversation that you have with 6 to 8 people. That's quite ambitious. You can also do what we call a mini focus group, and then you have 4 participants. So I would say that anything between 4 and 8 participants is doable. The added value from doing a focus group instead of individual interviews is that you have a lot of interaction and a lot of debate when you do a focus group. So if you want to have lots of opinion, lots of different ideas, lots of interaction, then a focus group is definitely a good way to go. But it's also a tricky method to use because when you do a focus group, you will see some participants will overpower other participants, and that's something that you have to be wary about, that you, as a moderator of a focus group, always keep in mind that everyone has the same amount of time to share his opinion. So having a good moderator is definitely something that is very important when you do a focus group. It's not only the task of the moderator to keep in mind the questionnaires and what kind of information you want to gather, but it's also difficult because you want to lead the conversation and you want to make sure that everyone has the right amount of time to give his opinion and that nobody overpowers anybody else. To prepare a focus group, you first have to decide who you want to invite. There's basically 2 different approaches you can use here. Sometimes we prefer to have the same profiles in one focus group. In that way, we want to make sure that nobody is overpowered and that everyone has, for instance, the same age. There is more connection because they share the same profile. Another way to go is to have a mix within a focus group. If you do a mix from a focus group, you have, for example, older people and young people. It's sometimes more tricky to get a conversation going because you have profiles that wouldn't connect as easily as people who share the same profile. So it's kind of something you have to think about in advance, but both of the methods can go and both have advantages and disadvantages. Another thing you have to do in advance is think about how you want to reach your participant. Maybe you have some data already from previous phases, but yeah, of course it's great if you can start a focus group, which is basically addressing everybody that you already have a list of. If you have to start from scratch and you have no list that you can count on to reach your participants, it's good to keep in mind which channels you can use, and you basically want to use the channels that your participants use. So if you want to find elderly people to come to your focus group, Facebook is not the way to go normally, so then you have to maybe make little flyers and share them on the street. But if you want to reach youngsters, then you can definitely use social media. So it's something you have to think about. It's something that you have to think about also when you start your business. But yeah, choosing the channels that your participants are active on is something you have to think about. When you ask people to come to your focus group, it's quite a big engagement because a normal focus group will lasts about 2 to 3 hours, so it takes a lot of time for the participants, so you really have to stress what's in them for them. You can maybe count on them to maybe want to make the community a little bit better and making it a better neighborhood for everybody to live in. You will always have people who just like to share their opinion, but really stress what's in them in it for them. Another way to go is just having a little thank you gift for the people who are willing to come to your focus group. Another thing that you have to have in advance is a questionnaire. A questionnaire, as for an individual interview, is basically a list of questions you want to ask, but it's important that you think about it in advance. In the documents that you will find online on the website, there's instructions there, but you will see that in the end of the document, you will also have some kind of interview guide that you can use for focus groups. It's just a basic set of questions you can adapt, but know that you need to have a list of questions in advance. What you have to know in advance also is how many focus groups you want to do. Normally you can go as high as 8 focus groups, but that's very intensive. I think for doing a community analysis here, for Speed You Up, I think 1 to 2 groups is already sufficient, but you can do more. Divide the roles between the youngsters. You have to have at least 3 people present. You have to have 1 moderator who is asking the questions, and then you have to have an assistant of the moderator. The assistant of the moderator just keeps an eye out to know for sure that everyone answers, and maybe if he or she sees that not everyone gets the right amount of time to speak up, then he or she can address that person directly. And you will also need someone who takes notes. It's advisable, if that's okay for all the participants, to record the meeting, but if that's not an option, it's always wise to have someone there who is taking notes. So when actually starting the focus group, you have basically a light version you can do, and you have an extensive version that you can do. The light version is very basic. You have the conversation itself, and then you analyze the data. When you do the conversation, the first thing you have to do is always introduce yourself, introduce the project, and foresee some time to let the participants get to know each other. It's always wise to start with a small game or exercise in the beginning, just to break the ice and get everyone comfortable with each other. Then you ask the questions, try not to interrupt, give everyone the time, keep an eye out that everyone gets the time and the space to formulate an answer. And it's always difficult because when you do a focus group, you will see that a lot of people will feel a need to give their opinion, not always directly related to the kind of information you want to collect. So I think it will be challenging to always lead the conversation back to the information you want to collect, and try to keep an eye out that it's not just a platform to let people share their opinion, but you have to, lead the conversation to the information you want to know. A focus group can't take longer than 3 hours, so that's definitely the maximum. After the conversation, you have to analyze the data. You can do that alone, so the youngsters can do that in a group, or you can do that together with participants. The way to go is then to basically cluster some elements, so you will see that you have a lot of opinions and a lot of ideas, and then you can, at the end, try cluster the elements. And another way to synthesize all the information you get in focus group is to create a mind map. A mind map you can do on paper or online. I have some examples here. So first you have a mind map on paper that you can make about the community, and then you try to cluster all the answers that you collected about certain topics. So you have the things about houses, the things about bank, things about people, and just try to collect all the elements in the right cluster. An online tool you can use to do that is Miro. Miro is very handy. I think personally during Corona, you will see that when you go to Miro, you can just open up a lot of templates. So if I just go to the general Miro board, I will have some templates I can use, and creating a mind map is one of the templates that I can freely use. And then you have just a spider web that is filled in and that you can adapt as you want. You can also share the Miro link with participants, so you can actually make a mind map together with your participants during an online focus group. So this is definitely an interesting tool, I think, for you. If you want to do the extended version of the focus group, it's advisable that you do 2 focus groups. Then you basically start the second focus group with insights from the first focus group, and you will look for ways to let participants vote and then to review their answers in group. There are 2 approaches you can use here. You can use the offline version, and then we have some templates that you can use for that, or you can use the online version, and then you can use Mentimeter, which is also a free tool. This is the offline version. You will find templates to do that on the Speed You Up website. What's the idea of the offline templates is that you just have some kind of topic, and then you have a possible reply. So a possible question would be, what kind of businesses are you missing in the neighborhoods? And then here I can list all the replies I collected during my first focus group. So here you will find an example. So what kind of businesses in the neighborhoods are missing, and then you have possible replies. So the possible replies is just a list that you make based on the results or the insights from the first focus group. And then you can ask each participant to vote. Do they think that they're missing a bakery, okay, or not? So they disagree. So they don't think they are missing a bakery, a bike store, a laundromat, and stuff like that. When you do the analysis, you basically collect all the individual templates. So here you will see that you have also again the list of possible replies, and then here I can collect all the answers I get from the participants, and then you use a color code for each respondent to show whether they agree, neutral, disagree, or strongly disagree. And that way you have a very visual overview of which kind of businesses people of the community think they are lacking and which kind they don't think they are lacking. So it's just an offline tool, but you also have a very good online alternative that you can use, and that is Mentimeter. When you use Mentimeter, you can basically do the same. Here I can ask my question. So what kind of businesses in the neighborhood are missing? And then here I can fill in a few options based on the first focus group that you have done. So here you can just randomly add options. Then you can share that code with your participants. They use their smartphone and they go to Mentimeter, they fill in that code, and then they can vote. At the end, you will see that you get a graph that will show you which kind of options are the most given reply and which are not. You can use a graphic, but you can also use a kind of a word cloud. So here people just go to Mentimeter also, but they can type words and then you get some kind of word cloud. So Mentimeter is definitely a very easy and a very good tool to use to synthesize the information given to you during the focus group. And that way you can basically do the work together with your participants, because you let them vote and you create some kind of cluster and some kind of analysis of the data together with your participants. So I think using Mentimeter is definitely something that is interesting. So there's also some things that you can change a bit. If you want to do more than one focus group, it's always wise to diversify. You can maybe do one group with elderly people and one with young people, but it's not very interesting to do 8 focus group with similar profiles. So try to diversify, choose different roles. So I have said it before, you have the moderator, the assistant of the moderator, and someone taking notes. When you have more than one focus group, it's convenient and it's more fun to do when you change roles. Record the focus group if that's okay for the participants. It's wise to ask permission and to let them sign that, so you have no discussion. Ask participants to register, so if you want to call upon the people of the community again in the future, that you can address them again and ask their opinion again. If you want to do an online focus group, that's definitely doable. There's a lot of platforms that you can use to have the conversations, so Zoom, Google Hangouts, WhatsApp, and stuff like that. But I think it's best to combine an online video platform with something else. When you use Zoom, Google Hangouts, or WhatsApp, you can use share screen to show pictures and stuff like that. It's wise to combine that with some kind of whiteboard like Miro, where you can work together on something, and with Mentimeter to let people vote. So I think it's best to make a combination of a platform to have a conversation and a platform to visualize what you're working on. Where can you find everything? When you go to the Speed You Up website, you go to Models, you go to Discovery, you click on Community Analysis with Mapping the Community Needs, and then you will find the instructions for the focus group here. When you click on that, you will be able to download the instructions and a template for a questionnaire.